What's good, world? Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind Sports and Entertainment video. Get into this recap of last night's episode 5 of The Undoing. It's a mini series on HBO. The name of the episode was Trial by Fire. Fury. The show stars Nicole Kidman as well as Hugh Jackman. Why I keep saying Hugh Jackman? Hugh Grant. Only one more episode left. And last night's episode kind of returned to what we saw through the first three with a huge cliffhanger at the end. Messing around with something on here. I'm not understanding how this version of the live stream is working. But anyway, I'm gonna jump into it. So, like I was saying earlier, HBO is kind of messing around with a bunch of different random. The last one this one is only 6 episodes. Another one that was in this same format was the one that starred Mark Ruffalo. I know this much is true, and I was kind of okay with that one. It was kind of miserable, honestly. This one is pretty entertaining, pretty good. But the thing that you might be experiencing is that, and the show is going to be over soon. It seems like there's so much more to dig into with this family, and we only have like 55, 57 minutes left in our experience with them, unless you check out the book that this is, which is You Should Have Known. So, anyway, a couple of major things here. Let me see where I want to start. Okay, so a lot is going on. Well, let's start with Haley Fitzgerald in court. She tripped me out with her whole the strategy is wait and see. You're paying her all this money. You have your freedom is on the line. They've already skipped past taking any kind of plea deal or anything, and so you just have to live with this jury's verdict at the end of the day. And that's what's been bugging me the whole time with this thing is that there isn't any conclusive evidence, and that's what Haley Fitzgerald is attacking is the fact is that there is no there isn't any smoking gun. This sculpting hammer, which is a co-star in this episode, but there's no eyewitness, and nothing is out of place other than this misshapen head of the deceased Elena Alves. So Haley is providing her muck as she said she would do. Conversely, the district attorney or the prosecutor is hammering home, driving home. That was a poor pun right there. Poor choice of words. But she's driving home the fact that of mush. So we have muck and mush. Fitzgerald is a cold-blooded operator. She's in the courtroom going to the mattress for her client. And based on how the evidence is as circumstantial as it is, she's just mucking it up, basically. And and making sure that the jury finds it difficult to find Jonathan guilty by reasonable doubt. There is some doubt there. So she's doing her thing. Another interesting thing that happened in this episode is the fact that Grace actually buys into some of this BS from Jonathan and she takes one of her walks that we've learned about to keep her grounded. After a phone call with Jonathan, she walks over to the apartment or to their house or apartment, and she actually joins Jonathan in the bed. We don't know if they, slept with one another or she just slept over. But she actually bought into him. He called her in the middle of the night. And they could pop up a timeline sometime and let us know what the hell the time is. Why would she walk over there versus, you know, getting car service or something? I don't know. That kind of bothers me a little bit. But she stayed the night, and when she comes home, Henry is up and kind of catches her sneaking back into the house. And he asks her, where have you been? And you can see that this episode is kind of teetering towards focusing on Henry, which ties into the cliffhanger. Another interesting thing here is that Jonathan reiterates, that he really loved, while he's trying to salvage his family, and at the end of this, find a way for his family to be back, be together. He said on numerous occasions how much he really loved Elena. In this episode, he says that I loved Elena quite madly. Honestly, he tells that to Haley Fitzgerald. And so with that being said, we also, in this episode, we see Jonathan's mother. I think her name is Janet or Janice. She finally returns a call to multiple calls that Grace has made to touch base with her. And mom keeps it a buck on Jonathan and says that he's not able to show any remorse, any regret, or he doesn't deal with grief. She's like, basically, he's a sociopath. And this comes from the fact that the mother, Grace's mother-in-law tells her that Jonathan is the reason for her sister dying. It wasn't an animal, a family pet. It was actually, I believe, his 4-year-old sister. He was like 17 years old and was supposed to be watching her. And somehow or another, she wasn't feeling well, but she managed to make it out of the house into the street and was hit and killed. And so we've just learned a lot about Jonathan's makeup. The other doctor, his colleague, told Grace how much how he played with these the family members of these kids, and how much he liked that attention and liked to manipulate those people. So he's a very interesting character, and it's kind of keeping me from settling on who did this. I don't know at this point. I really don't, despite this week's cliffhanger. So that was another thing. I only got 2 more points. The next one is Henry, the son, actually knew about Jonathan and Elena to a certain degree. He saw them he saw them in front at school, and they were talking to each other, and it didn't look appropriate. It looked like, even this, what is he? Henry is 13 or 14. Even at his age, when he sits there and observes Jonathan and Elena across the street with their child, he knows that, something was foul about that. Also in this episode, Henry, they go and do this family dinner thing after one of the after the trial, one of the days of the trial. And he's adamant, at the table that, we can get past this. Mom, you should be willing to take Dad back. He speaks for Dad. You won't ever cheat on Mom again. And we can get through this. He's like, Mom, giving her the guilt trip. You have counseled people through worse. So if your patients can buy into this, why can't you buy into it? We need to, stay together and guilty. Now, is he confident because of the cliffhanger? So let's get to that cliffhanger. Was it telegraphed to you? I told my wife, I didn't know where we were with the time, on how much time was left in this episode, but I told my wife that she getting ready to find that hammer, the sculpting hammer, which the proxy or the smoking gun, if you will, and this changes everything. Or does it? Henry wakes up and stares at her in shock. We don't know if he's staring at her in shock because the truth has been revealed, and he knows that his mother knows what he did, or is he just shocked that she's in the room looking at his stuff? Now, one thing here to consider is that, remember, going back to the first episode or the second episode, Jonathan went into the room to talk to, or he was in Henry's room before he left for his trip to Cleveland. He could have put the sculpting hammer in his son's violin case, thinking that it wouldn't, they wouldn't search in his stuff. And I think he said that his dad was in the room doing something before and woke him up, and then they had to talk. So, that this doesn't really get Jonathan off of the hook totally because of that one interaction. The other thing here is that Franklin came into the room and said that he was fond of the one of my other suspects. He came into the room while Henry was playing his violin and said he was fond of the instrument or something, complimented him on it. Franklin could have put this, he could have hidden the sculpting hammer in his violin case. We don't know. The other thing that I skipped over was that Haley starts to point the finger, since her defense is just, my client actually loved Elena, and all he did was run. All he did was flee, but he didn't do this. All she's driving home is that nobody else was considered for this killing or this murder because of the fact that it's easy to pin it all on Jonathan. But so she calls into question, like, why didn't you look more into Fernando, the husband? And she also points out when she catches Detective Mendoza, Edgar Ramirez, in a lie, and says, why didn't you consider Fernando a suspect? Why didn't you question him as a suspect? And then she also, to drive this point home even more, she also brings up the video of Grace and somewhat catches Mendoza in the fact that he looks a little less believable now. That he didn't mention the video when Haley gave him a chance to talk about other potential suspects or suspects. So she shows the court, the video of Grace crossing the street that we saw back in episode 3, I believe. And, Mendoza goes through why they didn't consider Grace a suspect. And he also goes into something about his reasons why they didn't look into Fernando. So, like I said, man, I still don't have an idea. It seems too easy for it to be. If he was at home, did they get a sitter? Was he with Franklin? We don't know. So I'm assuming we'll find out more about that. Other than that, I don't know. Sylvia is still the friend of Jonathan and Grace. She still is someone I'm keeping an eye out on. We haven't seen a whole lot of her. She's only been around, here and there. It was kind of interesting that she came into court late. And I think she even went to wave at the prosecutor for some reason. That little interaction seemed a little peculiar to me. That's about it. Like I said, I still don't. I guess they've done a hell of a job in putting this thing together. Without me being familiar with the book, I really don't have a clue who could have done this. And like I said, now we have this sculpt. Oh, so they showed us in the teaser or the trailer for the final episode. Haley says something about they obviously go and tell Haley about the sculpting hammer being in their son's violin case, and Haley says something. Do you know what this would mean? Do you know what this would mean if this got out? So how do they go about handling that situation? that's pretty much it, man. I don't have a clue, so I'm anxious to get to episode 6. Like I said, it seems like it's so much more to dig into the show, but it's gonna be over with next week or the end of this week. So that's it. Pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Let me see how I can shut this thing off. I don't like this version of going live. Probably the last time I try to do it. Yeah, I don't even know how to get out of here.